A water balloon. Normally, this isn't particularly interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. Slowed down 400 times, the latex balloon skin snaps back to its original state in less than 1/100th of a second, leaving a globe of water virtually hanging in mid-air before the liquid mass loses its inertia and begins to fall. All this in under a second. The water balloon, a thing, but very slowly. A disposable lighter. Normally, this isn't particularly interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. Seen 400 times slower than usual, the rapid ignition is reduced to its component stages. An initial ejector of white-hot flint particles is followed almost instantly by a miniature gas explosion as the subsequent cloud of butane is released. All this in a split second. A disposable lighter. One more thing, but very slowly. A man karate chopping a brick. Normally, this is quite interesting to watch. But let's see it again, very slowly. At 4,000 frames per second, the hand of steel transforms into a wobbly mess. The 27 bones of the hand rattle around inside a glove of skin and fluids. A shock wave can be seen traveling through the arm's fatty tissue and across the surface of the brick in a cloud of dust. In real time, it takes 1/10 of a second. A brick being karate chopped in two. One more thing, but very slowly. A propane balloon igniting. Normally, this is quite interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. At 4,000 frames per second, the balloon unpeels itself in rubbery ribbons to reveal a shimmering cloud of propane. The gas ignites, sending a wave of flame through the propane, which grows into a ball of fire. After the initial burst, it seems like an eternity before the air mixes with the propane, allowing it to burn like the flaming heart of a nebula. In real time, it takes half a second. A propane balloon igniting. One more thing, but very slowly. A slap in the face. Normally, this isn't recommended. Or very nice. But let's see it again, very slowly. Seen at 4,000 frames per second, the slap seems to dislodge the brainiac's face. When the cheek is struck, a shockwave travels through the skin's collagen, arriving at the opposite cheek almost instantaneously. Then, the skin vibrates as the elastic fibers wobble under the force of the blow. All this in 1/10 of a second. A slap in the face. One more thing, but very slowly. A fish tank being shot with a crossbow. Normally, this is quite interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. At 4,000 frames per second, the bolt leaves the crossbow and slices through the tank, leaving a trail of turbulent water in its wake. glass shatters, and shards leave the exit hole, traveling even faster than the bolt itself. Finally, the tank gives way, and its contents spill forth. In real time, it takes a 20th of a second. A crossbow bolt through a fish tank. One more thing, but very slowly. A soap bubble popping. Normally this isn't very interesting to watch. But let's see that again. Very slowly. Seen at 4,000 frames per second, the pin punctures the bubble, which then delicately unwraps along its own surface. The bubble is an elastic sheet of soap and water held together by surface tension. As the surface breaks, the tension is released and the elastic sphere snaps back, colliding with itself in a cloud of droplets. All this in 2/100ths of a second. A soap bubble popping. One more thing, but very slowly. Very slowly. A pile of gunpowder igniting. Normally, this is quite interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. Seen at 4,000 frames per second, the burning fuse starts a violent chain reaction that sends granules Catherine-wheeling through the air as an ignition wave tears across the surface of the gunpowder. Finally, a billowing cloud of combustion gases rises majestically forth. All this in 1/10 of a second. A pile of gunpowder igniting. One more thing, but very slowly. A piece of spaghetti snapping in two. Normally, this isn't very interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. Seen at 4,000 frames per second, the spaghetti breaks into 3 pieces. Time and time again it snaps, but never in 2. Its brittle structure always fracturing in multiple places and turning a bunch of spaghetti into a shower of flying fragments. All this in 1/10 of a second. A strand of spaghetti breaking in 3. One more thing, but very slowly. Thing, but very slowly. A water balloon hitting a face. Normally this isn't particularly interesting to watch, but it is painful. Now let's see that again, very slowly. Seen at 4,000 frames per second, the balloon strikes the face and envelops it, before bouncing back and wobbling away. The weight of water causes the rubber balloon to stretch like a spring and completely wrap the face like the alien from the film Alien, before pinging back as the stored energy is released. All this in 1/10 of a second. A water balloon hitting a face. One more thing, but very slowly. Professional paintball equipment aimed at bare flesh. You should never fire anything at anyone. It's dangerous and very painful. But since we've shot him, let's see it again, very slowly. Seen at 4,000 frames per second, the paintball strikes the leg, sending waves across its hairy surface, like ripples on a pond of fatty tissue. Under the skin, freshly broken capillaries begin to bleed into surrounding tissue, starting the formation of a nasty bruise. All this in 1/10 of a second. A paintball hitting bare flesh. One more thing, but very slowly. Some popcorn popping. Normally, this isn't particularly interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. At 4,000 frames per second, the individual kernels can be seen turning inside out, as the heated moisture within breaks the hard shell and the starchy endosperm unfurls in an edible spongy foam. The violent unwrapping launches the newborn popped corn in apparent celebration as hot oil transforms hardened grain into tasty snack. All this in a 50th of a second. Some popcorn popping. One more thing, but very slowly. A wet dog. Normally, this isn't particularly interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. Seen 400 times slower than usual, the dog's fur moves in spiral waves from the head towards the tail, creating a galaxy of water droplets in the air. It takes less than a 1/5 of a second for each full shake, the force of the oscillations violently whipping the ears from side to side. In real time, it takes just a couple of seconds. A wet dog. One more thing, but very slowly. So what's this week's thing, but very slowly? A fat man! Normally, this isn't particularly interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. In super slow motion, the jiggling stomach is seen as waves, propagating upwards and throughout the structures of fat tissue inside the abdomen. 400 times slower than real life, it's possible to identify the individual lip movements of the shaking, jowly face. In real time, it takes just a few seconds. A fat man being wobbled. One more thing, but very slowly. So what's this week's thing, but very slowly? A cola bottle being opened. Normally this isn't particularly interesting to watch, but let's see that again, very slowly. Slowed down 400 times, the overflowing cola takes on the appearance of a much more viscous liquid and seems to keep flowing indefinitely. The high pressure inside the bottle causes the sugary solution and CO2 to erupt in a huge sticky fountain. All this in about 3 seconds. A cola bottle opening. One more thing, but very slowly. A champagne bottle being opened. Normally this isn't particularly interesting to watch. But let's see that again, very slowly. The cork races off, leaving a delay before the champagne is unleashed from the bottle in waves of tiny trapped bubbles. Slowed down 400 times, the champagne appears to take on the more viscous texture of a vanilla ice cream, or ectoplasm. All this in about 3 seconds. A bottle of champagne being opened. One more thing, but very slowly.
Снежный шар. Обычно это все не очень зрелищно. Но давайте посмотрим то же самое еще раз, но очень медленно. Скорость замедлена в несколько раз. Снежный шар разлетается вдребезги, и жидкость высвобождается из сферической тюрьмы, образуя воздушную взвесь. А обезглавленная китайская русалочка исчезает от энергичного удара молотком.